We're live. Not yet. Come back. You gotta let me get seated. Because it's gonna make hella noise when I sit down.
Pretty cool intro for all the videos.
Hello everyone. We're down here at Station 2 in the training classroom again. We wanted to come to you and talk to you about some building construction. So we're just going to do a little refresher about some building construction of what we deal with in the fire service, some reasons to be aware of it and what to look for. So we'll jump right in. So we'll talk about Class 1 or Type 1, whichever one you want to call it. This is going to be fire resistive. Here in the city of Fultondale, we do not have any of these buildings. Where you're at, you may. What this qualifies as is it's going to be reinforced concrete, and it's going to be protected steel. So the steel members inside these structures are going to be coated with a fire resistive coating. Usually this is thick, fluffy stuff that they spray over the steel that's going to hold it up over a little bit of time. It's going to resist fire. You've got a burn time of about 4 hours on that. Okay, so it'll be about 4 hours before that fire resistive coating starts to break down and give way. Some weaknesses over time, the steel can become exposed. Also in these buildings, the windows can be pretty hard to break because they are built for those high rises. So the windows are going to be built a little bit different than your normal construction. So keep that in mind. Generally speaking, these buildings are going to be over 75 feet. So in your coverage, a building will limit their size to 74 feet just to get out of the extra things that they have to do for the high rise, if you will. So 75 foot and below, we'll move into the non-combustible, which is going to be your Class 2 or Type 2, whichever you'd like to call it. These buildings are going to be made of non-combustible walls, so block or reinforced masonry. Your roofs are usually going to be made of metal. The members there, your I-beams and such, are going to be made of metal, and they're going to be unprotected. So you can look up when you go into a store, for example, like Lowe's, you can look up and see the metal members in the ceiling. You're going to see the bare steel. That's going to fall under the Type 2. These buildings can hold up for a good bit as well. They've got a burn of usually about 2 hours before that steel or metal starts to give way and starts warping. The roofs can be made of lightweight concrete as well, which is also making it non-combustible. Some of the strengths of this is going to be your burn resistance. Like I said, you got a little bit less of a burn time than your Type 1, but like I said, the example of this is going to be Lowe's. These can also be called a wide rise building. Okay, so you have your high rise, which goes up. Your wide rise building, you've got a lot of area that goes east to west instead of north to south. Okay, so a lot of area there for smoke to build up in. Special notes for this type is your high ceilings. So you walk into your Lowe's and you've got a 30-foot ceiling. You've got a lot of smoke that can build above your head before you realize that it's actually bad condition. So all that smoke that's building above your head is also combustible, so that is fuel. So be aware when you go into these buildings, look up, see where the smoke has come down to. Know your buildings, know how high that ceiling is generally, so that you know how much smoke you're dealing with above your head before. Big key for these is going to be to ventilate. This can be done in several ways. When you get on top of that building, you can use roll-up doors to ventilate before you go up, or when you're on top, a lot of these buildings have skylights. There'll be plexiglass, sun glass, or whatever they use for it. You can ventilate these buildings by putting holes through the skylights. Also, if they do not have those, you can take your tool up to cut. If you're going to cut, be aware of which way the beams are running. You do not want to cut into your beams and weaken the structure or dependability of your building. When you do ventilate on these type of buildings, make sure that there is not a roof above a roof. Some older buildings, they will put a rain roof on top, or if they replace a roof on these buildings, they usually do not take the original roof off. So you could have a 2 to 3 foot void space between the two, and if so, make sure that you're getting that pipe tool, New York hook tool, whatever you use to get through to make sure that you are completely ventilated before moving on. So type 2, that's going to move us right into our class 3 or type 3, which is going to be your ordinary materials. This is going to be a tilt or masonry wall. So a tilt wall, if you're not familiar, is going to be a pre-constructed concrete wall, and they'll use a crane to tilt it into place, and they'll secure all four together. Or it'll be your normal block masonry. So the difference between your class 3 and class 2, your roofing is going to be made out of wood. So your I-beams and the members that make up your roof are going to be made out of wood or combustible materials, whereas in class 2, you're looking at metal. So some of the strengths of this, we'll put it right there for a minute. Huh? All right. With a combo of non-combustible and masonry, fire cut joists, exterior walls can stay standing if the floors collapse. So in these buildings, if the roof does end up collapsing, the masonry walls will continue to stand. Weakness, a lot of these buildings have common attics or horizontal void spaces. Fires can spread rapidly. One thing to look for on these to know if we're dealing with a type 2 or type 3, the top of your building, the roof will be either at an apex or go up and have a design to it. I'm not talking about a parapet wall, but if the roof has a A-frame to it, most likely it's going to be made out of wood. It's not going to be your metal structure. Example of these buildings can be older strip malls before they got into making the roofing on these. A lot of the old strip malls will be block walls with the wooden beams and construction on the top. Know the direction of your trusses prior to ventilation. Keep in mind that if the building is new or old, can determine the strength of your roof. So older buildings are going to be made typically with stronger wood, thicker wood than it is now. Newer construction, the wood is going to be pre-manufactured, so some of that can be questionable. Class 4, we're moving to heavy timber. We do not have a heavy timber in our coverage, but what this is going to look like is older churches, or your cathedral style churches can have heavy timber. So what this means, we've got large diameter wood. So your large diameter wood, most of the wood is on the inside, making the burn longer for those. These are very, very solid. They hold up good in fire. These buildings will be put together with plates and bolts, not gusset plates. These are actually going to be steel plates and bolts. Things to consider during these, if you have a considerable amount of fire, the heat can cause these, the steel plates to warp, the bolts to fail, which can be very high risk for collapse. These heavy roofs in construction can be very, very dangerous in that manner. So a lot of them also have built-in drainage. So this can help a lot when you're putting a lot of water on these buildings. It will not hold water; it'll actually drain off. So that helps a lot with the weight when you're looking at the collapse threats of these. Nothing else there. Let's move on. So next we're going to go into class 5. This is going to be a lot of your older style homes. This for us is a lot of apartment complexes and all of our hotels. All of our hotels are constructed with lumber. This would be kind of what you would call heavier build. A lot of 2x4s, some high, some low. So often the wood can be manufactured, so keep that in mind. If it's a newer construction, the wood can be manufactured, making it weaker. Strength of these beams are used for structural materials. This can help prevent collapse. Interior platforms often prevent the spread of fire. This is things like tongue groove, ceiling, or sheetrock can also help. Some are also constructed with fire stops that can help with the spread of fire as well. Examples of these, like I said, hotels, apartment complexes, and some residential housing. Most of the construction is considered fuel on these buildings. Some may have fire-rated walls or doors, void spaces and attics. Spread fire fast. Smaller diameter wood can fail quicker. Be aware of collapse and integrity of the building. Smaller diameter wood is going to be your 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, and things of that sort, where most of your wood is exposed because of how it is spread thin. And we're adding one more class. So class 6 is not one of your traditional types when you talk about building construction, but we added this one as well. Picked this up from a class that we did, and we liked it, so we were going to go with it. Class 6 is going to be lightweights. This is going to be most construction that are going up nowadays. Materials used in this is going to be truss construction, usually joined with lightweight, unprotected gusset plates, usually pre-manufactured lumber and a lot of OSB. It's cost effective, it's quick to put together, and a lot of times can be on a slab. So this is very, very attractive nowadays, putting these houses up because you can throw them up quick. We keep the cost down. Weakness of this construction poses a threat for collapse and rapid burning. The OSB burns at a rate more rapid, leaving holes in floors and roofs. Beams can be laminated and span long distances and leave no signs of failure. So a lot of times you're not going to be able to tell when some of these components are going to fail. We've been shown where some of the beams in some of these houses are made of OSB, so they'll have a 1x3 running with OSB between two 1x3s. They've even started constructing with holes cut out of the OSB in these runs of beams, which make it very, very weak. Examples of these are going to be most of your homes in larger subdivisions now. In our area, we have D.R. Horton homes. That's going to be a very, very big majority of these. They come pre-manufactured. You're ordering a home off of a catalog, and they send everything pre-constructed. They can run through these structures very, very quickly using gusset plates and unprotected metal to put them together. Special considerations. The window of firefighting time is smaller due to the unpredictable nature. Constantly sound the floor in these structures. Collapse is a danger. OSB is made of 60% glue, so degradation of the structure is rapid. So we like to use a lot of caution in these. They're going to go up quick. Usually going to ventilate themselves pretty quick. But that covers our 6 different classes of building construction. Do you have any questions? Anyone? Bueller? All right.